Hello everyone, this is Rachel, the Modern Shaman. Thanks for being with me for another YouTube Q&A video of this week. As always, if you're new to my channel, I am glad you're here. I invite you to check out my website, which is themodernshaman.net. There's a lot of resources there if you're interested in furthering your psychic development. My masterclass teaching curriculum has a portal that's connected to my website to link you to all of the videos and masterclass curriculum that's available for you guys to check out and further your spiritual, your psychic, and your shamanic development. Also, if you'd like a one-on-one session with me for mediumship, for psychic future probabilities, past life viewing, channeling, higher self guidance, whatever you may need, that's also available on the website. Again, themodernshaman.net. All right, I'm going to detour a little bit this week from my normal Q&A theme, or kind of the structure of how I do these videos with questions that you all send in and answer, because Spirit told me to talk about the dream that I had the other night. So today we're going to dream talk. However, I need to backtrack a little bit and give you some context. So I'll do that. So I am not sure what the purpose is of this video other than to maybe collaborate with those of you who are also capable of, or have memory of, or have epiphany or awareness of past life experiences, and how those are overlapping and bridging and blending and bleeding into your current experience. I would love for those of you, if anyone relates to this or has similar kind of death ritual memories, or just anything that resonates with what I share, if you've had something similar, I'd love to hear from you. I would love to hear your experience. So maybe you can comment on here or reach out to me personally through my website on the contact form. Yeah. So a little bit of background. My children last week went to Mexico City with their father's family, and they had kind of a celebration of life for a family member that passed, and there was a whole week of activities that they were doing to celebrate and have time together with that side of their family. And one of the activities that they did, that they came home and they told me about, was they went to a cenote, and they had dinner in the cenote. Oh, my heart starts beating fast as soon as I talk about that. Which maybe some of you know is like a sinkhole or a blue lagoon. There have been a lot of talk and research and storytelling around the cenotes, and typically through Mayan tradition, it's really dark. It's seen as a very dark place where they sacrificed people and threw them into the blue water. I don't have experience or memory of that personally, but my children came home and they were excited about all of these experiences that they had had. They went to the pyramids, they did all of these wonderful things. And I just listened, but the cenote kind of stuck with me. And I didn't have a direct epiphany right then, but that night I went to sleep. And I have a pretty phenomenal sleeping setup. I will tell you guys, the headboard that my husband and I put in is basically a wall of quartz crystal. It's a stone that has quartzite in it, and it's rough hewn. And so all behind my head when I'm sleeping are these quartz crystal activators. And it's typically a very powerful time of programming and sleeping in conjunction with the information in the courts. Anyhow, all that to be said, I had a memory that night. I will say during my dream time, but it wasn't a dream. It didn't flow like a dream. It was definitely a memory. And if you've ever had past life recall during dreams, it feels like a memory. Like, oh, I remember that. Like as if I was telling you something now and maybe I said something and it triggered a thought for you and you're like, oh my gosh, I remember I had that same thing happen to me, such and such. It doesn't feel loose. It doesn't feel far away. It's just triggered and suddenly then you remember the whole thing. And the reality of the memory does not feel like a dream, not even a lucid dream. It feels very sane, very clear-headed, just rational. I don't know, it doesn't feel like a dream. It feels like a memory, like something real. And so that night I had a past life recall, and in that recall I was in what I would say now is a death ceremony. My stomach is like, nervous. Not just nervous, but it's active right now for this memory. And I get always nervous sharing my personal stuff on here. Maybe everyone does, but it's funny that I do this for a living, but I don't share a lot of personal stories because there's something that feels like it's lost. And it moves into like storytelling, which feels trite and feels flat. I don't know. It feels like something in a book. It doesn't have the life and the energy in it when it's felt. So anyways, that's going to make me cry, but Spirit told me to share, so I'll share. So anyhow, the death ceremony, I walked into a cenote, and there was a cave inside of it. It was like a big hole, but I walked down in and there were little caves, like a room similar to this size. It was far back in, and I walked in some sort of ceremony or ritual, like I was consciously doing this. And it got darker and darker the further I walked forward. And in the memory, I'm in my body, it's first person. I'm looking, I'm not watching it from above. It's just like in a body, and I'm just seeing what I see as if it's first person. And I walked till it got darker and darker and darker. And I was aware that I was supposed to stay in there for what was 2 days and 2 hours. And I kept telling myself it's only 2 hours, even though I knew it was 2 days, but I kept saying 2 hours, like in my internal voice, in my conscience, to keep myself stilled. And this was part of an awareness that I would put myself, I knew I was going to be in this dark space that had access to no light. Like your eyes could never adjust. I could never adjust. And I was in that dark space and they shut the door. Or they put a rock over it, something that I couldn't move. I believe it was a rock. I was walking forward, so I didn't see behind me. Ugh, it's gonna make me throw up. And I was aware that this would break me, or that this would, like, if I was to speak of it in modern terms, like this would put me into I have a psychotic break to where I consciously like induced that, or that's what that ceremony was for, that it would break the mind to where the mind no longer knew what was real and what was not. And I sat there in the memory that I was having, and in the dark, probably for like the first hour, trying to make my eyes adjust. Like you can't, your mind wants to make your eyes adjust, but they can't. And eventually I started seeing things, kind of like hallucinating. And you're also obviously fasting, or you're going through a physical body death, so no food, no water for 2 days. So you literally are. I do believe I was literally hallucinating. And I knew, my mind knew, I am hallucinating, or I am dreaming. I didn't have the word hallucination, but I knew that the images that I was seeing were projections that I created. But I couldn't stay with that as like a rational thought. It started to shift to where my brain couldn't tell what was real or what was inside of my mind. Like as if I was to close my eyes and imagine shapes or people or things, I was seeing them, and there was no difference between the inside of my mind and my reality. The cave. I can't really talk about it without it. Anyways. It was an incredibly profound experience, memory. So I understand why they did it and why it was a death ritual. And part of me did die. I don't think I came back with all of my mental faculties in the same way. I don't think I was supposed to, but when I had that dream the other night, or the memory, the recollection of this past life memory that I went through, I remember coming out, and you see the light at the top of that cenote. It's like that. It's like the birth canal. I can't even. I'll just edit this out. It's like a birth canal, and it's so painful because you haven't used your eyes, and your brain doesn't know the difference. I don't know what that's called, but there's something that happens, and it can't ever quite return. Maybe my sharing is to ask if anyone else has been an initiate in that type of memory. I remember green more than blue coming out. waking when I came out. And that was all of my dream. Most of the dream, which was like all night long, was just me remembering that mental state, if you call it that, of like a conscious psychotic break, or like the awareness that my mind was dying, and relaxing into that. Like, because at first I fought, like I say fought, but like there's a tension in the mind at the beginning that like gripped it. Anyhow, I think it's interesting. I had a session one time for a client. This was years ago. I don't even remember what I guess it was a past life session or something. I'm not sure the question that they asked, but I had a past life memory of them in a death ritual in Abydos, in that Osiris, the temple of Osiris, or the Osiran. I can't remember what it's called. And in that death, they died as a male and were born as a female. And I remember that was the death ritual was to balance the perfection of the body, the mind, the soul. And there was this whole death, because in that life he had a male body, but there was part of this whole death ritual, that was the first time I had seen it. I remember it now. Like it was very impacting, even as a reader watching that memory of them, and they were still kind of living out that template. I think it's interesting also the parallel in Jesus's life, and how the Bible tells the story of being, after death, being put into a cave and a stone being shut for 3 days till he rises again. There is a death and resurrection template that has been with us for a very long time. So I would love to open that up to any of you guys that maybe have some similar recollection or memories. On a deeper level. Sometimes it's hard to feel, this is YouTube. These are like videos people make on their phone, or it feels so silly, you know what I mean? It feels so like whatever. It's hard to communicate the depth of what I'm asking in response. Like, I would love something with depth. Can I say that without... I would love to hear from you if you have something deeply and truly in response. Anyhow. All right, I'm going to sign off here, and I'll be back next week with another video. Bye, you guys.